What do you get when you combine simplified practice marketing, proven ROI strategy, and Van skate shoes? You get Marc Thackeray, of course. So lace up, grab your green smoothie, and get ready, because this is Dental Marketing Secrets. And this is Marc.
All right, you guys, welcome back to another episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets podcast, where we provide actionable tips and tricks that you can take and apply immediately to your practice so you can grow it, scale it, serve more patients, and ultimately leave a greater impact. My name is Marc Thackeray, and I'm just excited to be here with you today. I've got a very special guest, Marc Hansen from Podium. He's the Director of Enterprise Marketing, is joining me. Marc, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. My pleasure. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate this. So give us a little background about yourself, Marc, and what you do, so people know who you are.
Yeah. So I'm a marketing director at a company called Podium. I've been there for about a year, but previously about 10 years of experience in digital marketing and demand generation, field marketing for different technology companies based out of Utah.
Awesome. I know. And Podium's just been going crazy. You know, you guys have been growing leaps and bounds over the past couple of years. I don't even know. When did you guys start? When was Podium founded?
So Podium was founded in 2014 and has had just kind of rocket ship growth over the past few years. In fact, I was at a previous tech company, and Podium kind of started as a startup at the 5th floor of that building. You know, and they previously had some other roots where they started what we like to joke about, you know, starting above a bike shop, right?
Yeah.
But they kind of made their way to the top floor of this tech building, and I got to know Podium a little bit, seeing their employees kind of like stagger in and out of the building, and I was like, "What is this technology?" And slowly got to know the company, and then like it seemed like overnight, suddenly they blossomed into 700 employees and more, and becoming a global tech company, and they've got 2 buildings now in Lehi, Utah, and so it's been fun to watch the growth.
Yeah, it has, and I've personally worked with Podium on a number of different occasions. You guys do tremendous work, and so super excited to have you on here, because I think you have some great experience and some great insights into what we're going to talk about today. In our pre-call, we kind of bounced around a number of different ideas, but we were looking at what is it, so there's challenges. Some of the challenges that practices face today is that they've, some of them have built the practice and they kind of build it around what they think it should be. And then they try and convert the patients to fit that mold, but we were talking on the pre-call how, you take a company like Amazon as a great example, and you look at their model, and there's so many things that you can learn from a company like Amazon, especially in dental. I mean, it's, as I was thinking about this too, after our conversation, I thought, well, what is it that makes Amazon so unique? And you look at, everything from the way, how much easier they made it for everyone. They didn't have to go out to the store physically. And at first that was a challenge. A lot of people didn't feel comfortable purchasing products online, but they made it so much easier, free shipping, and have gotten better and faster at that. But they stand behind what they sell. They've made it, super easy. Their search engine is awesome, and if you're looking for a product, you can find almost anything. And their product descriptions are better. Their reviews, being able to search those reviews, that's a huge differentiator for Amazon. So there's just a ton of things that we can look at, or steal from Amazon really to build a better practice. What have you seen, Marc, in terms of, what are some of the challenges that you see from or that practices are having nowadays?
Sure. What's interesting about Amazon is they put the customer at the center of everything they do, and they put convenience or removing friction at the center of everything, right? I can think back to the past kind of like 4 or 5 years and watching innovations of like 2-day shipping or one-click buying experiences, like very limited form fills and things like that. Right. And on the reverse, practices, businesses, marketers in general kind of like build processes that are externally facing for maybe prospective customers that add friction, right? Because those things, conform to the business. It like serves a need for the business and it's like a process internally. Right. But it's not necessarily the best experience for the actual customer or the patient, right? And so we have a lot of practices that, they come to us and they want to, maybe grow reviews, or they want to provide a modern patient experience, or they want to be able to kind of like conveniently connect with their patients. And all in the name of like really what we like to talk about, what we hear often when we talk to like consumer experience experts and things like this is, nowadays we are not competing with the dental practice down the street, right? We are competing with the best experience that your consumer, your customer or patient has ever had, right? When you think about the best experience they had with Amazon or DoorDash or Netflix or Uber, like all of these things are incredibly innovative and really exist to remove friction and make things more convenient.
Yeah. So I just we got to emphasize that, that's such an underline and circle that and ready, because that is such a key concept to get a hold of, and I think that's really one of the overarching themes of this conversation is that idea that you're not competing with another dental practice necessarily, because they've had these experiences. Amazon has made it so easy and so convenient and so comfortable now to do business with them that you're now competing against the likes of Amazon. So tell me more about that, Mark. I mean, I know you have a lot of insight into this.
So a lot of our research shows that in the next, maybe it used to be in the next 5 years, but it's actually accelerated due to COVID. But we believe that in the next, several years that, the experience that a business provides will actually overtake the importance in the customer's mind over, even price or, brand. It's that experience is what people are looking for.
Right.
And, we're living in, especially during kind of like the COVID era, a mobile first, a search first, a digital first type world. Right. And this is an area that a lot of businesses have had to kind of like undergo what we would describe as like digital transformation, which is often conceived as like a buzzword. But in reality, like people have had to go through digital transformation in like an overnight process, right? Like immediately, right. How do I figure out how to communicate with my patients? How do I collect payment? How do I interact and get information out to the world, right? If they're not physically coming to our location, that's a challenge that Podium helps to solve, and has been rapidly accelerated. This idea of like convenient, frictionless communications with patients and customers. And we have a tagline or a phrase that you can often hear around Podium is the idea that convenience wins. It wins in all scenarios. Convenience wins.
I'm writing that down. That's such a good mantra to live by, really. And you think about just, that's such a good way to look at that. I mean, there's a lot of things that, we're talking about before, but just, we get so ingrained with we get married to our processes sometimes, and that can be a huge hurdle for patients, this, everything that's gone on with COVID has kind of forced a lot of businesses, not necessarily just dental, but a lot of businesses and practices to upgrade their communication skills and make it easier, so in a lot of ways, it's been a huge, tremendous benefit, because it probably would have taken some of those people years to do that on their own if they weren't forced to do that. But let's dive into, okay, so how do you now take a practice and how do you make that more patient-centric, so to look at, okay, what can we do to make it more frictionless, as you say?
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to maybe put yourself in the mind of a patient or a consumer. How do they connect with their friends and family, right? Yeah. How do they communicate? Years ago, there was a race for lots of businesses to like develop their own apps, right? But no one wants to download a new app, right? To communicate with the business. We did some research early on and found that nearly 90% of patients, they want the option to message with a business, right? Mm-hmm. Sitting on the phone, you've had this experience where you kind of like wait on hold, you hear the hold music, then you get like call tree options and you have to dial 1 or 3 and you don't know which one you're supposed to dial. And then suddenly you're back at the top of the call tree. No one likes that experience. And most businesses and dental practices, that's kind of like phase one is like, get a landline, right? Get a website. These are the basics, but that all serves the business, doesn't necessarily serve the customer. And more recently, we did a state of local business report and found that 86% of consumers, they expect even more convenient communications and services in a post-COVID world. Like they've had to adopt DoorDash and all these other services.
Yeah.
And now that experience is not going to go away. So every business, every dental practice, you should be thinking about how do we make things more convenient. And we believe that texting is really the way to do that. You think about your patients text, right? They text with their friends and family. So should you.
Yeah, no, 100%, and kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier too, just how it's all about that patient experience, and how important and how critical that's becoming. It's becoming more weighted in the minds of consumers, more so, sometimes than the clinical experience. Certainly you need to be qualified and competent. You can't be some bum off the street doing this, but at the same time, people want to have a great experience. They crave that, because they've tasted it from other companies like Amazon, like DoorDash, like Uber, and so now that is a huge factor in their decision making. They want that relationship. They want, it's just so much more than it has been. They're asking for so much more than they have been in the past.
Yeah. The interesting thing about messaging or SMS text or, lots of different messenger apps like Facebook messaging and things like that is, that's where your patients live and communicate every day. Right.
Right.
But what we've been able to do at Podium is to leverage those types of communication vehicles to help, dental practices to generate more reviews, to automate appointment reminders and maybe converse over appointment scheduling. Connect really with their patients and their preferred method, right? Capture feedback like Net Promoter Score, kind of sort of internal consumer feedback, collect payments, and then consolidate all the variety of ways that you can publish reviews and also communicate with patients. There's, if you're a marketer and suddenly you're realizing, man, there's like 10 different websites I could have reviews on outside of Google, right? How do I collect all that, manage all that, consolidate it in one place? Because I don't want to log into all these places every day. Right. And at the same time, kind of thinking about how do I communicate now that I'm turning on all these channels outside of a landline and a web chat forum or something. Now I've got to think about Facebook Messenger. I've got to think about Instagram Messenger, WhatsApp, all these places. The benefit to Podium is it pulls it all together in one place to kind of like track and manage and optimize.
Yeah, it's so simple. I've used Podium for a number of years, and it makes it so easy. And especially if you look at it from the practice side, that's one of the hesitations of a lot of practices is they don't want to, grant access, Facebook access, or anything like that, Instagram access to all their team members because they're, honestly, they're afraid that they're going to get distracted from their primary responsibilities and things like the time wasting and things like that. But what's so neat about a Podium and their dashboard is that it pulls it all in there, so you can just look at it. It's all, it's only for the direct message you receive. And there's so many cool things that you can do with that. I'll make a plug here because we've done, I've done a number of different, Facebook ad campaigns that drive to Messenger, for practices because then they can see those messages. It's so nice. They don't have to, like you said, log into Facebook to see those. It's another login. That's another thing to remember, and that's been a huge gripe for a lot of office managers is just they hate they have so many things to log in and check anyway. And so to add another dozen just from the social aspect of social media and things like that, it's just can be so overwhelming.
Totally. And one of the things that like the foundation of Podium that kind of came into existence was around this idea that like, most businesses, and when you think about dental practices, you typically have that like, there's a handful of reviews on Google, or maybe it's doctor.com or WebMD or something like that. There's a handful of reviews and they're typically negative reviews because someone had a bad experience and went out of their way, right? Because you think about yourself, you'll probably go out of your way to leave a bad review if you had a tough experience, right?
Yeah.
But if you had a great experience, it's kind of like, cool, I'll come back. I'm not going to go out of my way to leave a review. Yeah. And what we found is that like just reducing the barriers to leave a review, right, increases your review volume and ranking and things things like that, just by sending a quick text message, asking them to leave you a review like right after a service, right?
Yeah.
So,
well, and that's again, going back to this idea of frictionless communication, making it easier, more convenient, less of a hassle for your patients to take action, and that's what's so cool is,
right.
You guys can do that in a text, but even if you don't have Podium, for example, I mean, just taking that concept and applying it to your practice, you're going to see so many more gains that way. And I love what you said, just by making it that little bit easier, you're seeing so many more reviews as a result, and you're actually telling more of the true, an accurate story. I mean, because that's one of the challenges of reviews is that, if you're not proactively trying to generate those reviews, you're just most likely going to get those negative reviews, and it's not telling the whole story. And so you got to be very active. You got to make it easier for patients to do that. Tell us about, talk a little bit more too about how reviews play a role into how you're found online and how it looks to prospective patients.
Yeah, this is one of those things that when we talk to our customers, they realize that they kind of have that light bulb moment, right? Really, the importance of maybe leveraging frictionless communication and capturing reviews is the idea of getting found, getting chosen, and really keeping your patients coming back. And our customers, after they kind of install Podium, they see an increase in lead flow. They are able to kind of modernize their overall patient experience, and they convert web traffic, more often into paying patients. But what's interesting is when we look at kind of the trends that are happening with mobile search and the algorithms, like it's sad that we're all just like beholden to Google, right? Yeah. But the algorithms that they put in place, when we think about like the map pack, right? If you have a Google My Business location, most patients are going to type into their either their browser or into the Maps app on their phone, right? And they might do it on their desktop computer or something, or laptop. But really, the most common search that this is data that we're getting from Google. Most people will say best dentist near me as the search phrase, right?
Right.
And when you see best dentist and then you add near me, right, that's going to pop up the results, that are closest to you on the map, right? And on top of that, they're really only going to serve up results that maybe have 3 stars or more, right? So you're automatically, if you have fewer than 3 stars, you're automatically out, just because you haven't been collecting reviews or growing your presence. And it's increasingly competitive. And now it's even getting to they're going to crop out anything below 4 stars, right? So this is hugely important for getting found, getting chosen, getting noticed, right? Having your search ranking based on reviews is really going to impact your overall business and revenue.
Yeah. So just to clarify, so those that aren't sure what that Google Map Pack is, if you type in best dentist near me, it's going to show you some results, some listings, but it's also going to show you the little map section where they have the little pinpoints of dental practices near you that qualify, right? I mean, that have a good reputation. Google, if you think of it in terms of what Google's trying to accomplish, I mean, they're trying to deliver up the best, most relevant search results. And so if you type in a dentist near me or best dentist near me, they want to show the best dentist based on the data that they have. And they look at that through reviews, and obviously take into account your location. But what's also interesting too, Mark, was when you're talking about they use best dentist near me. I've also just seen a ton of searches for dentist near me, and they omit the word best, which is so interesting because from a psychological perspective, it means that they're so heavy on convenience. That is utmost importance, just like you were saying before. It's even more important to provide the convenience factor as opposed to maybe the clinical qualified competent factor. So interesting.
Totally. Yeah. And what's interesting too is it might be super simple for a patient to type that in, right? Dentist near me. Google will kind of in their logic, they're thinking about best, right? Even if the patient doesn't put that in, Google's going to serve up the best, right? Based on those reviews. And so either way it's inferred. Yeah.
Yeah. So what else goes into like that map pack section? So you mentioned having good reviews. What else factors into that?
Yeah, I think it's important for any business, especially dental, to think about developing your map pack, right? It's called Google My Business, and to develop your location page. What it serves up is a sampling of reviews that shows your star rating, right? Your ranking, and then you can add on to that things like Google Click to Message or Google Click to Call, right?
Mhm.
Like, and a link to your website. All these things are super convenient ways for the consumer to access your business, right? And
Yeah.
more, like websites, like you can just bypass your website completely and just say click to message, right? Or
Right.
click to call. To me, like as someone who's like often on my phone looking for the next service, like I don't want to go to some other like weird experience online. I just want to quickly get the answers I need or
Yes.
communicate with the business quickly that way. So
Yeah.
super
Exactly.
important to build that out.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and that's pretty easily done, right? I mean, you can you claim your listing on Google My Business. A lot of times they'll have you they have to mail a postcard to confirm that it is you, but once you have that claimed, you can add in details. You want to add as much detail as possible in terms of the services that you offer. You want to make sure that the phone number that you're listed is accurate. All your open times and close times are all consistent across there, because they use that. Google looks at that quite a bit, don't they?
Mm-hmm. They do.
Yeah. So that's again a great point is to build out your Google My Business listing. If you haven't claimed it, go claim it first off, and then take the time to build that out. So let's talk to me too just about because that's a big feature of Podium is the review generation. So tell me a little bit more about what you guys have done to make that easier. It's just a simple text, right? But what's gone all into that?
Yeah, we're able to kind of maybe automate it, right? To where you can send automated text messages. You can kind of program things so when the service is completed that you automatically ask for a review, those kinds of things, and then within that you can select which of the sites that I want to serve up for my patient to leave a review. So maybe you don't want Google. I would say you always should invest in
Yeah.
Google, but like
Right.
maybe you don't want Facebook reviews, or maybe you know what I mean. You want to focus on another website. You can kind of like drop those in and allow your patient to leave a review where they feel comfortable leaving a review, right? And
Yeah.
kind of infer that. But what's been interesting about our customers is they often, within a month's time, will increase volume and review ranking significantly in just like under a month after turning on Podium. Typically we're seeing, an increase like just recent stats that we pulled, 470,000 reviews created across 1,500 locations, specifically in the dental industry, right?
That's crazy.
And average ratings typically jump to about 4.75. That's an average star rating within the dental industry over time. And typically we'll see a 230% increase in monthly review volume within our dental practice industry.
That's huge.
Post Podium.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I remember one of my clients, we had a new practice that had just brand new opened up, and that was a big focus was to generate reviews to help increase online presence and visibility. And yeah, I remember in the first couple of months, hundreds of new reviews in a matter of months, and that was just a huge launch pad for that particular location. And it just, and that's what I love about it. This is one of the overarching themes of this conversation. It's just the convenience, making it easier for your patients to take action. In this case, leave a review. And by doing so, you generate so many more of them. And it helps them, helps you. I just love that because that's such a challenge. If you're trying to do it on your own, it's one more thing to add to an ever-growing list of to-dos, and chances are you might remember for a day or two, but then after a while you forget,
Right.
and then because you just get so busy with other things. So the fact that it's automated, I love that feature. So
well, there's a lot of practices that will roll out Podium, and maybe it's across a couple of locations, or we have some that are across 70 or more locations, but they'll kind of launch Podium with some incentives for their office managers to say, hey, we've got like a big review push this month, right? And we want you to kind of pull out all the stops, put up signs in your office, right? Think of unique ways to request those reviews. Maybe do it while they're in the office, like right when they leave or something. But we're typically seeing a big push to launch and incentives for those actual employees to really increase those reviews. And, it's simple for the patient. Thanks for coming in today, right? They get a text and it says, thanks for coming in today. Leave us a review, right? Rate how your experience was. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, super simple, and I think what, what I love about what you guys do and just, some of the feedback that I got working with you guys as well was just making it very informal, maybe that's not the best word, but just making it very personal, like you would talk to a friend, and because there's other companies that do this type of service where they automatically ask or solicit for reviews, but it seems so formalized that it doesn't come across. I think a lot of people are like, who is this again? Even though it was just a day ago that they came in, but if you make it super personal, and just colloquial, like you're having a discussion with an everyday friend, I think that makes it so much easier because that's what they're used to. That's what patients do all day long, and when then they get some random text that's like, hey, Mr. This, so-and-so, and it's all formal. It just doesn't ring true,
Yeah, it's true. And so I'm a Stonehaven customer myself, right, in Utah. And I've got their number saved in my phone. They send me reminders when my next appointment's coming up, and it's probably automated, right? However, when I respond, I feel like I'm talking to an individual. And the truth is probably 3 or 4 different individuals that are managing that text link, right? But it feels like a conversation where I can say, hey, I actually can't make that appointment. Can I reschedule? And then someone responds back and they say, yeah, sure. Here's some other available times, right? It's super convenient for me because I've experienced, all the call reminders. I never answer when I don't recognize the number, right? Like I'm going to open a text message like I always will. And most patients will. They probably won't check their messages or, answer an unknown phone number, right? Like it's just, there's too much spam out there. But as you were talking about kind of chatbots and robots and things like that, like, that's what's different about Podium as opposed to some of those like automated chatbots out there is that the web chat solution that you can place on your website converts that conversation to a text feed, right? Where it can be saved as a contact in your patient's phone. So instead of it being kind of like a web chat where you're stuck to your browser and you have these like automated, like click this button, click this next button, and they're all like automated responses. It's a real conversation with a real human, right? All via text message.
Yeah. And that's exactly what they need. Just like you're saying, there's so many times in the day when, you might be at work or we're all doing so many different things nowadays. We're so busy and engaged that, we just don't have time to pick up the phone. We might be in a meeting and realize that, hey, I can't make my appointment. I can't call right now, but let me if I could send a text, that'd be awesome. And so that's what's so cool about this functionality is it allows you to do that. It puts the patient in control, and I think that's what these great companies, Amazon that we've mentioned before, that's what they do. It feels like you are in control of the situation, years ago. Well, and there's a lot of practices that still do this, but you feel like you're beholden to the practice. You have to go through all of these different steps just to get a hold of them. And then you have to reschedule. And then it can be such a nightmare that way. But this makes it so much more convenient, so much more frictionless. I love it. It's so cool. So tell me about some of the other things that you guys have done. I know you guys work with a ton of dental companies. I'd love to hear some of some additional kind of success stories and what practices are able to do because of this.
Yeah. One of the more exciting maybe case studies recently is the example of Jefferson Dental. And they kind of came to Podium. They're thinking about modernizing their patient experience, looking to widen the lead funnel to capture, because you think about it, there's all these channels like we talked about before, and oftentimes marketers and business leaders will say, I feel like leads are slipping through the cracks, right? Mm-hmm. And that's part of the story with Jefferson Dental is thinking about how do we increase lead flow and widen the ways that we capture leads, and then how do we convert more of that web traffic into paying patients, right?
Yeah.
So they launched Podium across 70 plus location pages, right? Those Google My Business pages we're talking about. They were able to increase their site traffic by, at least the site traffic to appointment conversion rate by about 20% across different channels, right? Facebook, Messenger, Google Messenger, web chat is the significant kind of portion of that. And then it's Podium web chat, and then SMS text messaging, right? All 20% increase. And then from that, in very limited time, over 34,000 new leads generated, over 6,000 new patients actually converted to patients, and about a $3 million increase in revenue.
Wow, that's game changing. Seriously.
Right. And another example we're thinking about is, and this is a case study you can read about on our website, but affordable dentures and implants. They came to us feeling like they had a pretty a poor reputation represented online, right? And that was not because they were a bad practice. It was really just because they weren't asking for reviews. So our contact over there kind of said, listen, we weren't asking for reviews. Really, the only people that left reviews is just like we talked about before. The small percentage, that 5% of people who went out of their way that had a negative experience that left a review. They deployed Podium and were able to increase to about 50,000 increase in Google reviews and a 30% increase in just their average star rating. Pretty exciting stuff for them to be able to kind of turn that online search behavior around.
That is crazy.
And lastly, I'll talk a little bit about Inspire Dental Group, where they had tried a number of different chatbot services like we talked about, and then they felt like it was too robotic and not convenient enough for their patients. It was like we said, you kind of stuck to a browser, not necessarily able to kind of convert that to a text message conversation and keep the dialogue going, right? But they deployed Podium and saw a 10,000 % increase in or 10K increase in average monthly leads, and a 13% increase in conversion rate to appointment set. So from their perspective, they felt like it's a great lead that they're capturing, and it also doesn't require a lot of staff resources to get people on the phone. Right? They can probably service multiple people at once, all through text conversations, versus you think about the time that it takes to call people and manage that. So very exciting stuff.
Yeah, it totally is. And when you were talking about that, it just made me think of, again, going back to just this ease of communication and nowadays where there's so many options that if you're the first one to make contact and make it really easy for them, they're most likely you have a much greater chance of them converting into a patient, just because we don't want to go through as consumers, we don't want to go through a lot of hurdles. That's not where we want to be spending our time, is hunting down a practice that's going to be able to, fill my needs. But if we can find someone that makes it easier, man, you have such better chance to do that, to convert them to a patient. If you can give them that easy way out, to be able to contact you via text. And then once you have that number, once you've started that conversation, that's what's so powerful too, is it's now you have this ability to ask questions and glean information and really assess the situation and what they need and customize it to their needs, and so it's just so powerful, being able to communicate with people like this. Very, very cool. Okay, let's see. All right, I know we're almost out of time, but is there anything that you feel like we should touch on before we kind of wrap this all up? And there's so many things that we could talk about, but anything, Mark, that you would feel like, oh man, we'd be remiss to not address this?
Yeah, there's probably two things. First, I'll say that the reputation management game is not about maybe getting Google to remove the bad reviews. A lot of people come to us and they say, I have these crappy reviews. How do I get rid of them? Mm-hmm. That's not how Google works, right? Google is all based on authenticity, right? And a lot of review sites are that way. They're third-party review sites. So really the value is not necessarily to get those removed, those bad kind of reviews. And you certainly don't want to have a poor reaction. You don't want to publicly go address that review. I've seen a couple of examples like on Yelp and other places where some business leader will go on and say, yeah, that's messed up. This isn't really what happened and things like that. And that makes it look worse. So don't do that. Yeah, don't do that. But the idea is that you want to kind of overshadow the bad reviews with the good, right? And just ask for those reviews and increase the volume and increase your star rating. Yeah. Kind of shifting gears a little bit, post-COVID, we launched a couple of new products to help our community and to help businesses because, we felt like, man, this is really going to have a global economic impact. And there's some things that Podium can do to really help. We launched one new product called Podium Payments that is kind of all part of the portfolio of send a text, get paid, right? Send a text, get a review, which has been very exciting when you think about a lot of dental practices that are still sending out maybe a bill in the mail, right? And, I get those bills, I open it up, I probably throw it away. I'm not going to call a 1-800 number to pay it, right? Like send me an email or some digital way to just like pay quickly. Yeah. And that's what Podium does is it sends a text message, says thanks for coming in, click here to pay your bill, right? And we see a 300% increase in conversion from that over traditional methods, right? The other thing that we did as part of our payments launch is we launched just our COVID kind of starter package, which allows businesses to have they can convert their landline to a textable line for free, and they can start to ask for messages or for reviews and start to leverage our payments product and reviews for free, right? Wow. So there's a lot of other features that come with our kind of multi-location products where you can kind of like collaborate across teams and all these things. But if you're, a single location, you're looking to just get a textable landline number and start, your capturing reviews and collecting payments like today, go to podium.com/starter and you can literally get started immediately.
Wow. That's so cool. I remember when that came out, I was like so blown away that you guys were doing this because, man, that's such a huge component. Like we've talked about, it can help you with all these areas of your business. And then to be able to access that and get started with no cost is phenomenal. It's so cool. So that was podium.com/starter. Is that right?
Right. Yep.
We'll put that up in the show notes as well. But, and the text to pay, that is one that we've been, and I'm kind of licking my chops for that because that is such a huge thing. Like you said, so many clients are still sending out the paper statements and, they want to get paid faster and just make it easier for patients to pay and they will, so that's so exciting.
It's kind of like taking the e-commerce engine that like now with Shopify, when you're buying something online, like it's super convenient. You've got your credit card saved. You've got all of it is kind of like safe, secure, and simple and fast. Like I don't have to pull out my credit card and enter in another number and do all these things. I can buy something in less than like 30 seconds online now, right? And that's what Shopify has done is taking the Amazon experience and giving it to e-commerce businesses, right? And what we're doing is saying, hey, you might not be in an e-commerce space. You're not shipping out deliveries, but you're providing valuable services to your community like dental, right? And now we can kind of deliver a portion of that kind of frictionless kind of like payment experience that you might get on Amazon or through Shopify, all through text messaging for brick and mortar businesses.
Yeah. And that's something too, to remember, you guys. It's just because you're not, don't, what am I trying to say? But just, you can always look at other industries, for inspiration and things to do differently. That's one of the smartest businesses do that is they steal inspiration and ideas from these other, verticals that don't necessarily have a lot of a direct translation, and so I love that. I love what you said there. So remember to do that, don't just look in your same industry because you're probably just going to repeat what everyone else is doing, so look beyond that and you're going to find a lot of great ways to innovate your practice. Well, that's awesome, Mark. I know you have to go, but I really appreciate you taking the time to talk today and for all the insight. If people want to get in touch with you or learn more about Podium, what's the best way to do that?
Absolutely. So again, you go to podium.com or podium.com/starter if you wanted to get started today. You can also find me on LinkedIn or email me if you have questions. Just write at mark.hansen@podium.com.
Cool. Awesome. I'll put that up there in the show notes as well. But thanks again, Mark, for coming on. Really appreciate it, my man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
You bet. We'll talk to you soon.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast? Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And for more proven marketing strategies to grow your practice, visit practicerocket.net.